Alright everybody, we're back. We had a good week of trading. We got the 20th coming up on Monday, which is Inauguration Day, as well as Martin Luther King's birthday, which means we're going to have a short week of trading, 4 days. And so, usually, markets are kind of slow moving on short weeks, but it's Monday that's off, and then we're off. We got the inauguration, which may change things for the market. We might have a lot of pumping and dumping happening next week, so we'll have to see. But let's take a look at the charts for now. Without further ado, we got to go. So first up, we got Bitcoin. Bitcoin broke out of its channel that it was in. It was in this range for a minute, and now it's finally broke out of the channel to retest this 107.42, which was the previous high, actually of 108.96. We did push out of this channel that we were in. Alright, pushed over our consolidation area that we were in at 103. We haven't had a full bar above it, but we are trying to retest this 108 area. We have to wait and see what happens next week. We're going to have a short week next week, so we may continue higher to retest this up here, or we may come back, open up down in here somewhere to confirm this resistance area that's now support, and then maybe retest or continue to sell off back into this area. It may not come back into this area here, but it may want to come back down. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. Most likely it's going to want to continue to go higher because the president says he wants to invest in Bitcoin, so we should continue higher, but we'll see. You never know what's going to happen with that. I got our other Bitcoin chart, which we retested this area, which I'm going to move to the. Now this one says it was at 108. Eight. 896.43. Alright, so that was our previous high. We're trying to retest that. We broke out of this channel, so let's see what happens. We either need to continue higher to retest this area, or sell off come Monday during the inauguration. Won't be any trading, so it shouldn't be any volume at all happening. Let's see what's going on with Coinbase. Coinbase got Bitcoin still pushing a little bit higher. It's at about 104 right now, though, putting in a little bit of a doji. So we have to wait and see what happens Monday morning or Tuesday when the market opened back up and Thinkorswim starts to give us more information. Currently Thinkorswim has got us on pause, but Coinbase shows it at about 104 right now. Okay. Next up is oil, and oil closed a little bit lower than 77.90. Had a nice push up to about $80.77 there, but that's since been the high. So it is running into some resistance. and pushing back for the moment. Alright, but still, it's clearly still in an uptrending market. Well, it's showing bullish signs, but it's still, the market hasn't quite turned over and started heading up to indicate a bullish market. The 200s are still flat, and we got a little bit of a pullback coming in, so we have to see if our 200 catch our pullback and pushes us higher, and all our moving averages start to float up to confirm an up moving market. But currently our market is flat, and we have a little bit of pullback in crude oil. Next up is gold, and gold is still showing bullishness and pushing higher. Had this fat doji on Friday, so look for either a push higher or a pullback into this area for support before trying to go higher. But currently gold is still bullish. Next up is natural gas, and natural gas is also bullish, still pushing higher. Put in a nice red bar here back to this support area, $3.93 or $3.90 area, and so far still bullish, so keep an eye on natural gas. Next up is the Nasdaq, and the Nasdaq is showing signs of bullishness. It's starting to break out of its channel. Almost couldn't get clear of it though. I'm trying to retest this 21,783 area that was support, now resistance, and so we'll have to see what happens. And it wasn't really a support zone, just more resistance zone, because as you can see, we have our touches here for resistance, but as far as support count, it could never hold it. It just kept breaking through. Alright, so we know there's an area there that matters. We just don't know if it's going to matter as some support. Alright, right now our moving averages are still rolling over. We still have our 150 and 200 pushing up. We have to see what happens in the next coming days. Next up is silver, and silver is still bullish. Got our moving averages are starting to force a point upwards. We put a nice green bar here, but then we had this doji that pushed down, so we get pushed up, and the sellers pushed it back down, and then we got in the red bar the next day. So we have to see what happens on Monday when we open up. Not Monday, I'm sorry. On Tuesday when we open up, and see if we're going to continue to try to go higher or continue to sell off. Next up is the Dow, and the Dow put in a nice little 3-bar push up here, put in a little fat doji and then another green bar to try to get out of this channel, but it couldn't quite break out of this channel. Ran into some resistance at 43,700, and we're going to have to wait and see what happens with that. Okay. Most likely we're going to continue higher with our MACD is pointing up, showing that we're going to go higher. Most likely we're going to push higher above this into this area at 44, come back and retest for support before going higher, or of course just blow right through it. But we have to see next week next week on Tuesday which way we're going to head. Next up is corn futures, and corn futures continue to push higher. Nice green bar tick up here at our support area, so corn is a buy and it's bullish. Next up is Apple, and Apple is continuing to show weakness, but it did find some support at the 150-day simple moving average, so we have to wait and see what happens with Apple. Is it going to try to retest this area up here and continue higher, or is it going to continue to sell off? Next up is Affirm, and Affirm is also showing weakness. Couple red bars here consolidating in this area. I have to wait and see what happens next week. What it wants to do, it wants to try to continue higher or continue to sell off. It is still currently in an up market. Next up is AMD, and AMD Same thing, is trying to push higher, ran into some resistance with the 20-day and the 8 and 9 SMAs. We're trading within this channel here, or this range. So we have to wait and see what happens with AMD. Alright. So this is our low down here, and this is our high up here so far. So we're going to get back up and retest this area for resistance. And if we can get through, test it for support before trying to go higher. But right now AMD is in a down market. Okay, so be careful with AMD. Next up is Amazon. And Amazon is in an up market, but it's still showing some weakness. It did, try to break out here a little bit and got above our 20-day and our 8, 9 SMAs, but put in this doji. So we have to wait and see what happens on Monday. May open up higher or open up lower. We still got to get through this area up here at $231 before we're sure that's where we're going to be. And our new high is actually 233. So we're going to move that to where our high actually is, not where our previous high was. Okay. Next up is ARK. And ARK Investments popped up because gold is pushing up, but it's still in this channel, so we have to wait and see what happens, if it's going to break out of this downward channel and continue higher, or if it's going to get rejected up in here. So we'll have to wait and see what happens next week with ARK Innovation. Next up is AWK, which is American Waterworks, and American Waterworks is trying to push higher. Put in a nice green bar to take out this red one here, and trying to get out of this channel that it was kind of stuck in. So we have to wait and see what happens with that. But on Tuesday, to see if we're going to try to go higher and retest this area up here for resistance, and see if we want to continue to push higher on American Waterworks. But currently it's showing some bullish natures, but it is in a down market. Next up is BITI, which is the inverse of Bitcoin. Of course, it should be selling off because we know Bitcoin is going higher. Next up is BOIL, BOIL, and BOIL is pulling back a little bit, but had some nice movement so far. So keep an eye on that. It's moving averages, the 200 and the 150 are kind of flat, so we have to wait and see if we can get these rolling over to confirm bullishness. But then we also have overhead this 200 moving exponential one, in which may cause some resistance. So keep an eye on that one as it tries to push higher. But it looks like it wants to continue higher. Next up is Cheesecake Factory, and Cheesecake Factory is showing some weakness. Got our moving averages kind of forcing it down. It's been jumping around within this range here. Alright, so we'll call this our range. We're going to get rid of this, which was our window that had opened. We'll leave our window there. We'll change our I don't want to confuse it, so I'll just move it closer and do that. Do that right there, like that. Alright. So I didn't want to remove that because we know we have a window open here. And this support area within our window, we're going to leave that as well, just to see what happens here in the future, if it ignores it or it uses it again like it did here, where it gapped up, came back into this support area. Then it pulled back here and pushed up higher at the top of our window where it opened. So you have to keep an eye on this one to see if it wants to just break through all this madness. Come back down in here and shut this window finally. Alright, but we know we got to reconcile this window at some point. Alright, next up is Comcast. And Comcast is still bouncing around down around $36, trying to consolidate. And but it's currently in a down market, so keep an eye on Comcast. Next up is Chipotle Mexican Grill, and it was pushing up like it wanted to take off and do the thing, put in this nice V bottom, and then it put in a nice red bar on Friday. So keep an eye on this one, see if it wants to continue to sell off and come back in here and retest this area for support before trying to break through again, or if it's going to continue to sell off. So that's Chipotle, but $55 should be its support area if it does try to pull back again. Next up is CenterPoint Energy. CenterPoint Energy continues to push higher. Coming back to retest this high of 33.50. We can get above that and find some support. We'll be wanting to continue higher. And right now it's bullish in a bullish market. And MACD shows that it wants to continue higher, so that's CenterPoint Energy. Next up is corn, and corn, of course, is continuing higher because we know corn futures are going higher. All right. So next up is CRSR, and Corsair Gaming is continuing to push higher. Got some support above this range that it was sitting in, and now it's got to get through our 200 and our 200s SMA and the moving exponential. Once we get above that, come back, check in, get a little springboard to bounce off those moving averages, and we're going to continue going higher, most likely in Corsair. Currently looking bullish, but it's still in a down market. Next up is CSWC, Capital Southwest Company, and it is going back to retest its previous resistance area that's turned, the support area that's turned into resistance, but it's also an area where a window had opened up in the past. So we know there's a little, there's some strength and some resistance in this same area. We need to get up through there, get up, retest these moving averages, and get back up to $26 and above in order to return to our bullish nature. But currently we're in a seller's market, we're in a bear market, and we have to see what they want to continue to do. If they want to continue higher, got a earnings coming up on February 3rd, so that could be a catalyst as well. So keep an eye on CSWC, Capital Southwest Company. Next up is DRIP, and DRIP is the inverse of Gush, and our bear ETF is put in a little doji. So keep an eye on that come Monday or Tuesday, and see if we're going to continue to go higher or continue to sell off, which would mean that oil is continuing to go higher. Next up is Dust, and that's the bear of gold, and of course gold is going higher, so that should be going lower. Next up is EXE, Expand Energy. Ran into some resistance at 109.47, which makes it our new high. And got rejected, so we have to see what happens come Tuesday. If we're going to continue to sell off, come back in here and gather our forces and head back up and try it again, or if it wants to continue to sell off and come back down here and shut that window it open. Next up is Fastly, and Fastly put in trying to get up ahead of this, came down and shut this window, all right, and it tried to push up and go back up to retest this $12 area, but it got rejected by the 20-day simple moving average. So we have to wait and see what happens on that one come Tuesday, and when market opens up for trading again, and see if it wants to continue higher or pull back. Next up is Grayscale Bitcoin, and Grayscale Bitcoin pushing higher because we know Bitcoin is pushing higher. Broke out of this channel that was forcing it down, and broke out of this range that it was jumping around in between. So it's wanting to go higher now. So we'll have to wait and see what happens with that, and see if it continues going higher, or if it runs into some resistance and sell off. All right, that's Grayscale Bitcoin. The new high of 86.11. All right, next up is GameStop, and GameStop put in a wild push-up on Friday. It was bouncing around at around $27, and then it just bounced up like crazy and ran all the way up to $28.79 before selling off again. So put in this wild pointer right here, and which looks like a doji. And so if we open up below that, then we're probably going to come down here to $25. If we open up above it, then we're probably going to come up and retest this $30.46. So we have to wait and see what happens with that come next week. Next up is gold, and gold is bullish, so keep an eye on that. Currently, barrier gold is in a down market. All right, bear market, so be careful with it. But we know Big Brother Gold is bullish, trying to push higher. All right. Next up is Google, and Google is bouncing around in this channel still. Hasn't been able to break out, so keep an eye on that. Got a window open down here, so it may want to come back and reconcile this, or may want to try to fight its way through this 197 area to go higher. All right. Next up is Gush, and that's the oil, the bull for oil, S&P oil, and put in a little doji. So we want that to open up higher, or to confirm the direction of travel, or open up lower to retest this area in here before trying to go back and retest the highs of $36. Next up, JDST, gold miners bear, and of course it's red because we know gold is going higher. All right, next up is JILL. Put in a nice hammer at our moving average of 20-day, but it's been in a down market, so this may be a good looking sign if we were in an up market, but right now we're in a down market, so that hammer doesn't quite mean as much as it normally would. So be careful with this. Looks like it wants to go higher though, but doesn't necessarily mean that's what's going to happen. So watch out for the 200 here, the 200 here, and the 150 coming over acting as resistance. Next up is JNUG, and JNUG is the bull ETF for gold, and green bar here, it wants to go higher because we know gold wants to go higher. So we have to wait and see what happens if it's going to push through these moving averages, because right now it was in a bear market, but we know it wants to turn bullish, so we'll see what happens with JNUG. Next up is KSS, Coles, and Coles looks like it's found the bottom. So we're going to have to wait and see what happens with that, if it's going to continue to fight its way up, or if it's going to sell back off. Alright. So we'll have to see. Right now it's currently in a channel between 1560 and 1262, and that was where our window opened up at the top of this, the bottom of this channel here, which is our overhead resistance for this channel here. Alright, so we want to retest the high of 1560 in Coles. Next up is LABD, which is the biotech bear. And as you can see, it wants to push higher, found some support at the 200 moving exponential. We got our moving averages underneath. We also wanting to come up and push it up higher. We got our 200 SMA flat and our 150 flat. So let's see what happens on next week. We're going to continue to push higher. And this is a bear, biotech bear. And the bull would be LABU, which is S&P Biotech Bull. And as you can see, we're consolidating in this area. We got our moving averages coming over, the force is down. We're also in a down market. Alright, so most likely we're going to continue to sell off in this one, and the other one, LABD, is going to continue to go higher. Next up is LAC, Lithium Americas Corp, and it's starting to push back up. Found some support down here at 290, pushed up, ran into the resistance at 360, pulled back, found a double, found some support at the 150, pushed up. Now we're going to back to retest this 360 area. We want to break through that, come back, check it for some support, and then go back and retest this 426 area and keep doing the process. Alright, but right now LAC is still bearish but trying to become bullish. Next up is Lake, and Lake is still bullish. Found some support with the 8 and 9 SMA. Looks like it's been respecting the 20, so keep an eye on that one. We might have a little bit of a pullback next week, but we know we got our moving averages are pointing up, and so the stock should continue to go higher, and it should remain bullish for some time to come. Next up is Microsoft. Microsoft was trying to go bearish, but now it's trying to go bullish, so we have to wait and see what happens with that one. Put in the red bar here to retest this 428 area for support. If we open up in this area again on the next week of trading, we want to see it find support and push higher. If not, if it breaks through and heads back down again, then we might try to find some support in the next area of support, which is down around 415. But it could be in this moving average area. So keep an eye on that. Next up is MicroStrategy, and MicroStrategy is going bullish again because we know that Bitcoin is bullish again. So keep an eye on MicroStrategy. We got a high up here at 543, so that's our high. That's where we want to come back and retest. Alright, for resistance and make it turn support. Alright, next up is Netflix, and Netflix is trying to make a retest of the $867 area. If we can get through that, we got to get through the 20. If the 20 doesn't force us back down, then we need to go back and retest this 935 area. But we need to make sure 867 is support, a good support, before trying to break through this 935. Alright, next up is NVIDIA. And NVIDIA, after coming down and retesting this support area at 128, is now trying to push higher again. So keep an eye on that. It put in this fat doji. So if we open up higher, we're probably going to go back and retest this 152. If we open up lower, we're probably going to come back down here and retest this 128 again. Alright, short week next week, so we'll have to see. Next up, OSS, and OSS is pushing higher, put 3 nice big bars in last week. So One Stop Systems is still looking bullish, so keep an eye on that. Nice little J-hook pattern too, look at that. J-hook, boom. Maybe come back, retest for support, and then keep going again. All right, next up, Oxy. And Oxy is consolidating still in the $52 area, so keep an eye on that one. But it's still in a down market also, so be careful with Oxy. Next up is Qualcomm, and Qualcomm is still trying to retest these areas. Running into some resistance here in this area here at around 164, so we have to wait and see what happens, if it's going to try to continue to push higher in the next week of trading, or if it's going to try to pull back and get some consolidation in before trying to go back and retest that high, or retest those resistance areas. Next up is Rocket Lab, and Rocket Lab still looking like it wants to sell, but it's holding on in this area here. It's still, consolidating here, so we'll have to see what happens in the next few days to come. It's in a little bit of a channel itself, so is it going to try to sell off, continue down this way, or is it going to remain in this range here and just keep bouncing around before trying to go higher? Remains to be seen next week of trading. Got a window open down here also, so it may want to reconcile that. So it's probably trying to still make up its mind with all these dojis it kept putting in. So I think it still hasn't made up its mind what it wants to do. Well, so time will tell. Next up, the Russell. And the Russell was trying to go back higher. It stayed in the bullish area and almost fell through, but it didn't. It got caught by the trade winds. And so it started pushing back up. So, but it's running into some resistance here at the $2,285 area. So we need to get above that, retest for support before going higher. Alright, next up is the inverse of the Russell, the RWM. And as you can see, it is selling off because the Russell is trying to push higher. Next up is the SDOW, which is selling off because the Dow is trying to push higher. And the SDOW is the bear, or the inverse of the Dow. Next up is SoFi, and SoFi is still trying to push higher, and it's bullish. So let's come back and retest this $17.89 area. Alright, so keep an eye on that. But currently SoFi is looking bullish. Next up is Square. And Square is still looking kind of weak. Ran into some trouble with the with this overhead resistance area of 88.89, which was previously support area. So keep an eye on that next week of trading. All right, see if it wants to try to break through it and get it higher and retest for support, or if it's going to get here and get rejected and come back to our moving averages. All right, that's Square. Next up is SRE, Sempra Energy, and nice V bottom, pushing up, 3 strong bars, pushing through, got our moving averages acting as resistance, but they seem to be getting through them. Ran into the 20-day, and the 20-day kind of slowed it down a little bit, so we're going to have to see what happens in the next week of trading. If it just didn't have enough to get through, or if it, is just taking a pause before going higher and retesting this area of $88.24. Need to get above that and retest for support before trying to go back and retest this $95 area. Alright, next up is T-Mobile US, and T-Mobile US is still bullish. It looks like it finished this consolidating in here, and now it wants to push higher again. It got a little doji up above our 20 days, so we can open up above this doji on the next week of trading, then we know we're going to be still bullish and wanting to go higher. And that's T-Mobile US. Next up is T-Tech, and T-Tech still kind of trying to get back into this bullish market, but it's got the trade winds overhead. It's got some overhead resistance of this window that it opened, and then it also has the moving the 8-9 SMA underneath coming for some support, and the Yay, SMA coming underneath for some support. So we have to see who wins this battle. If they're going to continue to, if it opens up above this doji, you still got to get through this this resistance area here and find it for some support. All right, if it doesn't, then look out for maybe a little bit of a pullback to consolidate some more before trying to get through it again. But it's currently looking kind of like it wants to continue to go higher up through here before trying to pull back for support. All right, but keep an eye on T-Tech and see what it does. All right, next up is Texas Roadhouse. Texas Roadhouse is kind of flat for now. Everything's kind of flat and it's consolidating. So keep an eye on that. It's still in the bullish market. So I think we're going to get a little bit of consolidation and then continue higher on Texas Roadhouse because everybody likes those biscuits. I know I do. Yeah, buddy. Next up is VSTM, Veristem Inc. And we got a little consolidation going on here. Got some dojis with some serious indecision happening, but we do have our 200 SMA and our 200 moving exponential and also our 20 underneath for some support, trying to help force it higher. But we did open up a window down here, so be careful with that one. We may have to reconcile that before we go higher to retest this $7.26 area. All right, so that's all I got for today, and tried to run through it as fast as I can because there's a lot of them, and it usually takes a while to have a comment for everything that you're looking at. But yeah, that's all we got for now. I think that next week of trading is going to be a short week, and there should be some excitement, or there might be some troubles. Who knows? Because there's there's so much negativity and positivity around the new president. So, and in general, the whole political Republican, Democrat, Independent, the whole thing with these parties are so I don't want to say confusing, but they just seem like there's so much turmoil with all of them that you don't know what's going to happen with how they're going to react to what the public really wants. So hopefully with the new incoming administration, we get some real positivity about where the country is heading and where we want to be as a country, because it's becoming evident there's a lot of unhappy people. So hopefully they'll figure out a way to make everybody get in the circle and campfire and sing Kumbaya. Alright, but anyway, that's all I got for now. Please like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. I hope this was, as always, informative. And be careful out there. These markets are crazy.